Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Kelly Berger podcast. It's been a while, and today is a very special episode. We're on episode 24, which I consider the Jack Bauer episode because of the TV show 24. And
Those
also,
timely references.
yep, and this is a very special episode because this is the episode that almost didn't happen because I just got done working a farm harvest and I had to cancel like 3 episodes. So this is the first one back in action. And today our guest is Matt Dooyema, who is a St. Cloud-based comedian and co-host of the Awful Service podcast.
That is correct. Welcome. Glad to be here. What's going on, Kelly? How we doing?
Yeah, thank you for being here, Matt. It's nice to see you again. Last time we saw each other was at the roast battle at the Keller Bar.
Yeah, that's right. That was the last time. Yeah.
Yep, that was we got to witness the triumph win of Whitney Haverstock.
Yes, we did. We got to see that unfold, and I was a judge for that one.
Hmm.
And that was a it was I got to watch it from behind.
Yeah, how did we look from behind? Were we as good in our Hawaiian shirts?
It was about as good as it from the front, if I probably had to imagine. It was cool. I love the concept of a roast battle. It's a lot of fun. I think it's still in it, like the one at the Keller is still kind of in its development stage, but I think eventually it's going to be something really special. So
Hmm. And special shout out to Whitney Haverstock for winning the night. I hope his intervention goes well.
yeah, we
Have
all
you
do.
seen that thing?
Yes, I did. I saw that they did both. He actually had an actual intervention, and then they did a joke intervention at the terminal bar,
Hmm.
I believe, on Thursday night. So we just hope, from us here, we just hope that Whitney gets the help that he truly needs.
Yep. And I know Whitney, he likes to watch this podcast. So cheers to you, Whitney. Hope everything, your future endeavors go well.
And that the medications keep doing their thing.
Mhm.
He would appreciate that. So I don't think I'm not being out of pocket with that one.
Yep. And yeah, how long has Keller been doing roast battles?
They John started it in June. John Roster, who is the creator of the Keller roast battle. A lot of people assume that I have something to do with it because I run the open mic at the Keller
Hmm.
bar, but I just help like a advisory role. I have so many other spinning plates that I just wouldn't want to take anything out, and it was John's idea, so he's been
Yep.
doing that now. They had to cancel this month, and I think that's kind of a good idea for them to kind of get a reset, try to come at it at a different angle, and then they're going to come back strong in November and December. And I think it's a good thing. It's good to have different and alternative shows, especially in the local scene. Other
Hmm.
than just straight up comedy shows, to have something fun, different, kind of game showy in a way.
Yep. I
I think
liked
that's
how
good.
professional this roast was run the night I was at it, where it was a lot of professional, not too much personal, which we know how some roasts can go.
Oh, I am well aware, and I actually haven't been in a roast since 2018 is the last time
Wow.
I did a roast, and that was because I had a very bad experience with somebody who had a vendetta against me, and instead of actually telling roast jokes, just decided to get personal immediately and drunkenly ramble about how much they hated me for 7 minutes, even though there was a whole stage. I wasn't even the roastee. I was
Yep.
just one of the people on the dais.
Oh, I think I've heard about that a while ago.
Mhm.
Was it with the famous back then radio station involved?
No, that was a whole other thing. No, I wasn't really involved in that stuff. This was just it was with the former host of the Keller open mic and
All
another
right.
comedian, and the other comedian apparently had some bad things to say about me, and now they're not doing comedy anymore. So there we
Yep,
go.
that's usually how it goes.
Right.
Yeah, it's I think I think roast can be a lot of fun. I think some people take it too literally. They think like, oh, this is a good jab, but it is, and also like the professional roast like on Comedy Central now on Netflix. I consider those like the comedy Olympics where you just see like masterful comedy where the pros can actually craft a good joke. And my favorite thing to do with like a roast joke is make it start out complimentary and then bring out the daggers.
Oh, doing the old reversal, like, oh,
Yeah.
they're really good at this because they're this. Yeah, I get you're saying there. Yeah, I've always loved roast as well. I mean, I remember when it was the Friars Club on Comedy Central used to do the Friars Club roast before it just became the Comedy Central roast. I remember the old ones with that, and I really enjoyed those back in like the late '90s, early 2000s were always kind of my favorites. And then they kind of got away with it a little bit. I kind of didn't enjoy them as much when it started getting like celebrities who weren't comics as
Yep.
part of it. It kind of took away from what made those actually funny and special. I mean, still, you got to see guys like Nick DiPaolo, who I thought was always excellent on those. Greg Giraldo, rest in peace. That guy was a masterful roaster, one of the best there ever was. Also, rest in peace, Patrice O'Neill, when he would be on that stuff, would be
Mm.
some of the funniest roasts that you've ever heard were from those guys. And so
Oh.
I always love that stuff. I admire that. And the idea was especially like the Friars Club actually had a motto is like we only roast the ones that we love. Like the
Hmm.
idea was that we're doing this because we actually really like each other. So if you're a comic, you're listening to this, if you don't enjoy the people you're doing the roast with, if you don't like maybe like them, it's one thing if you don't know them, but if I'm saying if you like have a vendetta, you don't really enjoy them, just don't do it because it's just going to come off angry. It's going to come off, and it's not
Yep.
going to be enjoyable.
And also it takes a while like to master like the positive tone when doing a roast. Like
Mhm.
I see so many comics when they do like roast battles, they sort of like they play the part, but they don't know it's the they're in a play, so they take it like literally and they sound super negative.
Yeah, and it's detracting as an audience to watch that because it's just you're there for a good time instead of just to have someone be outed for something, some petty bullshit or something like that. And on the other side of it too is when they get too personal, like sometimes the audience has no idea what you're talking
Oh yeah,
about.
and when they do like say like inside stuff, like say like events that nobody else knows, or saying names that like who the hell is this guy?
100%. It's something that actually happens at the open mic sometimes too, a little bit, where people will make super hyper specific jokes, and sometimes it's fun. Like there's not that many people there, we're having a good time, but like if it's a big audience,
Yep.
if we got like 20, 30 people there and you're making a joke about like Michael Soul, I'm not making being negative or positive about it, but like people like him, like he kind of like he gets a lot of
Hmm.
crap, if you will. Like people like to go like they riff about him, and sometimes it's if he'd just been on stage, that's one thing, but they're like someone else, he isn't even there that night or something, and I'll make a Michael Soul joke, and I'm like, that's only for the comics.
Yep. And it's also asking like who are you performing for, like for the front or the back of the room.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I always told you want to perform for the front of the room because the back of the room laughs at the worst shit.
Yep. And the front of the room is what they're the people who pay.
Exactly. Like you don't want to. I know some people that like have come and done like some showcases or they've gotten on some paid shows, but they were telling the jokes that the backer room, the comics were laughing at, and they didn't understand why they weren't getting laughs at these shows. And I'm like, it's because comics laugh at fuck up shit. That's what we do. We
Yep.
we laugh at the weirdest, craziest, dumbest shit because we've already heard most of your actual jokes, most of your actual set punchline stuff we've heard, or especially if we go to mics and we're paying attention, or we've done shows with them, we've heard it. I can't tell you how many comics I could probably recite their entire act, especially from like running the open mic and doing shows with some of these people. So I get
And then
that.
that also brings up like the important point of like doing comedy in, like different areas. Like comics who do like the same old mic in one area, they sort of get stuck in their echo chamber, and then they take their act to the road, and
Oh,
they get bitch
sorely
slapped by the different reality.
sorely disappointed. Yeah, it I was always, when I started out, or I should say when I started back at the Keller in 2016, I always made a point to try to go and do the Twin Cities. I'd go do Mankato. I would go try to do anywhere I could get on stage, not just St. Cloud, because I knew that that was going to be a thing. Like people, especially like people who go to open mics, we have a lot of regulars. We have people who come every week, and they're gonna be sick of hearing the same 5 minutes that you maybe did the previous week because maybe you're trying to polish or you're trying to get things out. So yeah, it's very good. I'm actually planning over the next year. I'm going to be going out to Denver.
Ooh.
Portland is on my list as well, and possibly Nashville. Um, just because I have some connections there in terms of like places I can stay. And just to try out my material in like a completely different market, like outside of the Midwest, because I've performed in all the upper Midwest states. So I just need to kind of like what would work in. I need to see what would work over here and what will work over there, and like the mountains and in the West Coast. I got experience. I got to do some mics when I visited San Diego,
Wow.
and you want to talk about a town that doesn't need comedy?
San Diego.
San Diego. It is 70 something degrees, perfect, not too humid, wonderful white sand beaches, the best tacos you've ever eaten. It has legal weed. Modelo's, if you're a drinker, Modelo's are like $2 a can. People call it like a paradise, and there's a reason that people pay a ton of money to live there. They don't need comedy.
Yeah,
Places
because
like
everyone's just out
Minnesota,
enjoying the weather and having a good time.
yeah, exactly. Minnesota needs comedy. Wisconsin needs comedy. The
Yeah.
Dakotas desperately need comedy.
But yeah, especially during the
Montana,
winter when everyone's
oh,
just all bunkered in.
right, 100%. But even, except for like the 3 months that it's actually pretty, and then like no one wants to do comedy.
Did you visit any clubs when you're down in San Diego? I heard Cobb's is pretty big.
I went to the Madhouse, which is a world famous club that's been there. It's the original San Diego comedy club. I got to do a set there, and then I did the Laugh Factory as well while I was there as well
Oh,
in San
nice.
Diego. Yeah, they were just their mics, the open mics that were there, and then I went and did like a bar mic when I was there as well. If you think the Twin Cities has a huge amount of performers, like the list to get in at some of these places, we're talking like 30, 40, 50 deep of just, and it's just open micers, people who are
Yep.
just the regulars. And then there's, of course, like the tourists like myself and other people who are just, happen to be in town. A lot of them told me they'll drive up 2 hours, like the way that some people will drive from Duluth down to the Twin Cities or to St. Cloud, which that boggles my mind. Some of these San Diego guys, they said they drive up to LA just to get better experience and try to get on more shows because there's more opportunities up that
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, it's the same way down in Austin. Like it's like 50 people on a list. You have to wait super long, and you probably won't get on stage until like 1 in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah, I've
makes me
had.
think of what was it? Eric the Reds, the Red Menace comedy show. That was what it was. Brian Miller used to host
Yep.
that one, and that one would be one of those mics where it would start at like 9 o'clock at night, and you were lucky if you got on before midnight.
Hmm.
Especially unless you were like like someone a little bit more of stature. He would be kind to me sometimes and at least get me on at like 11ish some weeks because he knew I had to drive back to St. Cloud, so he felt sorry for me. So like, yeah, I'll put you on a little later. But then
Yeah.
one of those times I had to go up after Swartzen, so no
Oh,
one
now
was
you
in the
can say
room for
Swartzen
me.
open for you.
Yeah, there you go. Except for it was what he took the whole room with him. So as soon as he got off the stage and went out to the bar, everyone else followed him out to the bar. So the only people who were in the room were comics who were up after me.
I remember that period. It was like that was when Swartzen came to the mics and he drank super heavily. Was
Oh
that one of
yeah.
those nights where he bought like a lot of people drinks?
Oh, for sure. And like he was actually really cool. I didn't really get a chance to meet him very like I got to say like hi and stuff, but I know from what I'd heard from a lot of our like Ira hung out with him. I know Nathan Smezrud, my friend Nathan Smezrud, you know Nathan.
Hmm.
These guys they got to hang out with Swartzen because they just happened to be in the right place, right time. I know somebody who was on because they were doing the Monday night comedy show MNCS over in Spring Street, and Swartzen just showed up and did a set with them. Like
That's
it's
pretty
nuts.
sweet.
Yeah,
I also remember
that's
that time he took the picture with Todd Scotum when he was in the Santa costume.
yep, yep. Todd's annual Santa roast. Speaking of roasts,
Oh yeah.
I do the roast of Saint Nick.
How did that go?
I, I've never been to one, but I've heard it's a really funny show.
Okay.
Yep, I just know that they do one every year,
Yeah.
and then like all the other roasters are like people who are Christmas themed. Like there's like a Mrs. Claus, the
Mhm.
elves, other I don't know, in like Rudolph and stuff like that, kind of roast Santa as well. So I mean that's kind of fun character act sort of thing. So that's cool.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's see. I also want to also thank you for keeping the color going because the past year that's one of the mics that keeps my flame lit after moving out of Austin, Texas last year.
Yeah, it's also the closest to you as well. Like
Yep. It's the
that,
one mic where I didn't have to make myself in the last year.
that that's
Uh,
true. Like you could just show. Yeah, it's I like having a mic outside of the Twin Cities as well. I think that it's really important for smaller scenes, I guess you could say, or smaller cities to have comedy open mics. I think that it really can it can help because there's local talent. There's people who would never are not they're not going to go down and do I don't know Terminal. They're not going to go down and do the Cardinal Bar or any of that. And then they might go do Acme once. Then they'll do their Star at Acme, and then that's all they'll ever do. Or they'll get on a Triple Threat once or something at the Mall of America,
Mhm.
or or Sisyphus once because they can, and then they're just like, oh well, I don't get on the next time. Well, why would I do this?
And it also serves as like a very good step for people who are thinking about comedy, but it's sort of like skittish about driving down to Minneapolis,
Oh yeah, they're so
especially
worried.
these
Yeah,
days when the way it's portrayed on the news.
for sure. Oh yeah, especially yeah. I get people who drive out from Greater Minnesota to St. Cloud. Like we our friend Ryan Minnendorf, he drives from Long Prairie area to
Mhm.
get, and that's an hour north of us. So like for him to get to the cities would just be, it'd be a big pain in the butt.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
sad like someone like Middendorf is stationed way outside of the cities because he's a real good talent. Like
oh,
he,
he's brilliant.
yep. And this year I spent a lot of time with him, and it's ironic. Like this year I was trying to bring him out of farming into comedy, but instead I went from comedy to farming for a little bit.
He rubbed off on you is how that worked out.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I
that's
just took
funny.
like a short harvest job that just helped get things stockpiled up.
You were harvesting so that you could have a full winter.
Mhm.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, that no, like that's what but that's why it's important. And that's why like when I had the opportunity to take over the Keller, that I felt it was important to keep that mic going because it was about it was really close. We were very close in 2020 to losing it, and not from COVID, but from the other controversy, which I won't really bring up on this podcast. But there was
Yeah,
a
that's for another time.
yeah, but there just let's just put it this way: it almost went away, and I got a chance to rescue it, and I'm glad that it's doing well, and we're producing talent out of that room now, and like people who are now doing things themselves who started at this little mic in St. Cloud, Minnesota. You got Trey Charles, who's starting to get booked, and he's doing things. He started at that mic. Billy Seafeld, who he was this little kid from Darwin, Minnesota, who just drove to St. Cloud because it was closer than driving to the Twin Cities, and he kind of found his voice there. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Eric Austin, who is now like making moves. He got second place at the funniest person with a day job last year at House of Comedy, and then just Thursday night, uh, won. He was third place in Sisyphus's contest.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like he's doing well. Like, and that's again a guy who like just started with like, I guess I'm going to try this because it's local and see where it works, and then you can move up. So if you're listening to this and you're from a smaller area that maybe has like a once a week or a once a month, that's a good place to start.
Yep. And let's see, how long have you been involved in St. Cloud Comedy? I wonder if you were there during the Rum Runners days or.
Oh yes, so that's actually how I got my start in comedy, way back in the day. My friends and I was going to college in St. Cloud, and we would go to Rum Runners every Wednesday night and Saturday night because on Wednesdays and Saturdays, they would, if it was your birthday month, you'd get a free tray of Jello shots.
Ooh.
Um, and when you're in college, when you're a younger person, you have a lot of friends. So we had friends every month, like, and then like some months it would be like five friends who would go. So we get five trays of Jello shots because they all had like a December birthday or something. But you didn't just get a tray of Jello shots; you'd also get two passes to Rum Runners Comedy. It was for Friday night. You could get free passes. They would pay for the room on Fridays because, as if anyone who does production knows, Friday's a harder sell than a Saturday for a comedy show. So we would take a lot of people were just there for the Jello shots. They didn't care about comedy, but my friends and I, we would just take these passes. We would go, and sometimes we would have like 20, 25 passes in a night that we got just because people would leave the trays out and we would just grab them. So we would just do that over a course of time. And then if we had a Friday night, a bunch of us would go down. We'd bring 40 people to this comedy club in St. Cloud that could fit about the room could fit about like 120, I believe, was like the max. What they did is four long tables. It had two rows of like small personal tables, and then it had four lifted tables in the back as well. I remember because we'd go there all the time, and we drink. They loved us because we would buy way too much cheap beer and shots, and we would, they tip the bartender and the waitresses, so they loved us. They loved us, and they knew us there. The owners knew us and everything. So we would also be the guys after the show, like, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Comic, do you wanna go do shots at the bar? Do you want to do drinks with us? And
That's
if
such
you
a good
don't
hook.
for real. but we would sit and go and like we'd go and do shots, we'd drink with these guys, and have I partied with a bunch of these comedians back in the day. And one time we're sitting at the bar, the owner's at the bar. There's this comedian, his name is Tori. He was from Ohio. He was like the feature, and he was hanging out with us. And we're watching, like, I think it was, we're watching college footballs on TV, and it was Alabama versus Arkansas. And I go, look, it's the illiteracy bowl. And just a quick little joke. And we've been joking all night. And the guy looks over at me, and then he looks over at the owner who's also at the bar, and he goes, "You should give him 3 minutes next week." And I'm like, I look, I'm like, what? He goes, well, "You're a comic, right?" And I go, well, I had a background in theater, in radio. Um, I did a speech in high school, which was like they also call it forensics, where you have to go up and do a prepared material.
All right.
Um, I did what's called humorous interpretation. So I had to take a humorous script and then do my own spin on it, sort of thing. So I had this. I was always used to being around people, and I
That's
always sorry.
that's pretty cool. I was in speech too during high school.
What was your category?
Creative expression.
Oh, I see. I at that time I was too big of a pussy to do creative expression. I did humorous interpretation because I'm like, oh, I don't have to be, I can make this funny by my own, like, I can add my seasoning to it, but the meal's already prepared. Do you know what I mean? Like it was right there.
Yep.
I actually won at state when I was in ninth grade. I also got to state finals 10th and 12th grade
Yeah, the
as
thing
well.
my favorite memory of like speech is like, and this is sort of like what inspired me to do comedy, is like that first meet you go to where you see a bunch of shy, awkward kids in like in a room together, and then you don't know anyone, and then as soon as a person gets up and speaks, you feel like you know them a bit more, and it's just like, wow, there's a whole another dimension to this guy who just standing there awkwardly a minute ago.
I mean, that's kind of a good analogy for an open mic too, especially if you're
Mm.
not from that scene. Uh, funny little side story before I go back to Rum Runners at a speech tournament. This is after I'd won at state I'd won at state one year, and I placed, and I won a lot. I was good at it. Um, this, like, sometimes you'd have to do the meets where like it would be seventh through 12th grade, especially when you're in the rural schools. They just put us all together.
Yeah, it's cheaper to put everyone in the same building.
Mm-hmm. And I feel so bad, but I went up. I'm a senior. I've been, people knew me because they'd see me as the guy who won all these things. And I had to go up against the seventh grader. And I got up and I did a really good. I did really well. He had to go up and he literally pissed himself. I felt
Oh,
so bad. He was so like, because he was so nervous because he's like, oh, he's so good and I'm not gonna do well. And like I ended up actually like talking to him years later. When Facebook started to come out, and like, he looked me up and we ended up chatting, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to like intimidate you. I was just literally just doing my stuff. And he goes, no, I know, I was just a stupid kid. And I'm like, okay, good. But like, I felt I carried that guilt for like 4 or 5 years.
yeah.
So uh,
The thing I remember most about speech is like the kids who would go sign up for speeches. It was always like a super extreme. Like you had the super smart kids and I'm gonna just say special kids.
it was a weird Venn diagram. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm with you on that for sure. It was super smart kids and then kids who really needed attention,
Yep.
and sometimes they corresponded. No, so back to Rum Runners. I have this background in this stuff, and I've always wanted to do comedy. I've been writing stand up for a while, but I never really did anything with it. And the owner, who loved us again because we're the guys who spend all this money there, he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, 3 minutes next Friday." And I'm like, holy shit. Okay. And so my very first time doing comedy as an adult, because I did do stand up once at like a variety show when I was 15 years old, and it was just really bad Jerry Seinfeld ripoff humor because that was big at the time.
Like, what's
Uh,
the deal with Y2K?
it was pretty close. It was something, it was along the lines of like, oh, I was talking about advertising and how I don't like Diet Coke just for the taste of it. Well, I've had Diet Coke, and that isn't right. Like, it's something really dumb like that, and it was like Nike, just do it. What is it? What is it you want us to do? Like, I was real sign. What is it you want us to do? But it's a 15-year-old, and I think that's where I caught the bug because it was like 500 people in an auditorium, and maybe they're just happy that a kid's just doing something. And maybe in my mind, I thought it was so much better. But at the time, I'm like, oh my God, they laughed at me. Like then I got that addiction. And then I did it through the humorous interpretation and the speech and everything. So I always had that bug. So I go up, I get to do 3 minutes in front of a pro show. I got to do a guest set. It was my first time ever on a stage as an adult doing stand-up comedy in front of 100 people.
Hmm.
Not an open mic, not a whatever. It was an actual show, and it was really hot audience. The Rum Runners every time was a hot audience. That place
Nice.
was like it was buzzing most of the time, because again, it's like it's St. Cloud. So if it was a Friday night, it was all, as much people got in for free because they had those passes, but they're all, or they got in for cheap because like they had a deal. If you were a college student, you got like a half off your ticket or something like that.
Hmm.
So they would always be pre-gaming, they'd be pre-drinking, and anyway, so there were always drunk, rowdy crowds. That was always kind of the thing there. But they were always hot. They always, if you got a pop, it would sprinkle through the room because there's low ceilings. It had the classic brick wall background, everything. And I got up there and I told it. I can still tell you the joke because I still occasionally break it out in my act, but I don't really
All
do it
right.
very often anymore. The first joke I ever told on stage, first time ever, and I was a huge, I loved like Stanhope and like really shocking comics at the time.
Hmm.
So I was having anal sex the other day, and I couldn't help thinking during the middle of it, why did she pick such a large strap on? And it because they were not expecting that,
Hmm.
it just popped. And like I'm like, oh, I want to do this.
Hmm.
And so I ended up like getting guest sets there. And then because the owner liked me, and when I would do guest sets, my dumb friends who all have the passes would come out those nights, and then they spend money. So for in his purview, he's like, well, I got to keep getting this kid on. I'm 22, 23 years old. I got to get this guy on because he has friends who are going to come out and watch him be an idiot on stage. So I was doing that. I did that for a while, and then eventually, actually, I worked my way up to being a host there, from
Nice.
just doing like 3 minute to fives to like doing hosting, and then um, eventually, the original host, the guy who'd been doing it for like 30 some years, came back and wanted to do it again, and then none of the other guys who were hosting got an opportunity unless he was sick.
Wow.
And then a couple years after that, the club closed down,
Yep. And
and
can I ask what years your rummer years were? Because was this sort of like the time before comedy became viral?
yeah, it was well before that. It was like 2005 to 2008
All right.
when I was doing that. It's crazy though because I got to like work with like Jeff Tate and Dave Waite, who are both really big guys. Jeff Tate's currently Tom Segura's arena opener.
Wow.
Yeah, and he works with like Doug Benson. I actually got to hang out with him and Doug Benson because he remembered me. And like actually, I talk to Jeff every once in a while still, and it was just because I was the host the night that him, and Dave Waite actually together were coming through town, and they were just, they were doing, it was a Yoder gig, so they were doing like, they were doing like a run from like Western North Dakota, and then they were going to go through Wisconsin, and then do like Illinois, Indiana, because they were both from Ohio.
All right. And is this also the time where you met Ben Capster and Adrian Washington?
No, what's actually crazy is Ben got into he did Rum Runners just very briefly, and that was in like 2010,
Wow.
2011. So I never him and our paths really never crossed at that point, which is crazy. The amount of stuff that him and I have in common, because we've had this conversation of like people we know and everything like that. And I mean, he always told me like, God, I really wish they would have the Keller when I was living in St. Cloud. And like I go, yeah, that would have been awesome. And we've compared notes, and it was funny because we actually never met in person until 2022.
Hmm.
Adrian, I
Amazing.
do remember though, he would do free shows anywhere that would have him. And I remember watching Adrian Washington like in 2006, 2007 in front of like a bar of no one paying attention. And he was still trying and doing it. And he did all right. He was funny back then, but like not where he is now.
Mhm.
But you could see like where that was starting. And yeah, so I've actually known Adrian for about 20 years.
Yeah, Adrian's like amazing story. Seeing like someone pop so far in comedy while still living in St. Cloud.
Yeah, we call there's do you know the comedian Daypiece, or at least have heard of him?
Yep,
He's from
I've
Iowa.
worked with him a couple times.
Yeah, I did his podcast as well, and we were chatting about it. And he actually calls Adrian the blueprint
Hmm.
because he showed how you can be in a small market and still be relevant and can make a living at it. And
Hmm.
Adrian did it for years, and now he's doing amazing. So, kudos to him.
Yep. And I also wanted to talk about the color for a little bit. And
Mhm.
I think one of the things like we need to know about comedy is like different clubs and different places have different rules. I know over the past couple years, a couple people got kicked out of Keller. And
Okay. So I can go through at least a couple of the examples of why we had to.
yep. We
One
won't
was
mention
because
any names. We'll just
no,
explain
yeah,
what they did
there
and why it
there was
happened.
one we had to ban because he was stalking one of the female bartenders,
All right.
which that's pretty cut and dry. Like we had the screenshots that she sent us of like him sending inappropriate content
Hmm.
to her, and also like he was touched, like when he would be at the bar he would touch her. And so that one a lot actually, and to be clear, the majority of only one of the people that were banned were actually banned by me. The other ones were banned by the venue.
Okay. And what were like the venue rules saying? Like, was it mostly focused on like personal, like touchy behavior, or was there any one person doing like bad jokes that were so awful that they drove people out?
That was part of it. We had, well, one examples is we had a gal who was using the N-word interact,
Hmm.
and she was white, and we had told her like, hey, you can't say that, you can't do that, that's like the one thing, like you can't say the N-word. And you can't she's also saying the F slur to some gay comedians while she
Hmm.
was on stage. So it was like she was just trying to be shocking, and we gave her a couple of warnings and she kept doing it. And the
Yep. And
same
I think
thing.
there's also another important lesson because, well, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I also tried some edgelord stuff at places I didn't get kicked out. And I think one of the major reasons why like I got to stay and other people got kicked out was whenever I did like an edgy joke that bombed, I didn't take it on the venue or the other comics.
Yeah, because she would go off stage and also she called this comedian the F slur
Hmm.
to his face. And it was like we had to make a decision, and the bar is a very LGBTQ inclusive place.
Hmm.
They do a lot of stuff with like burlesque and some of those things, and they're even a sponsor of St. Cloud Pride, so they didn't want any of that to come out. And again, we had given her opportunities. Everyone that we have banned, we had given opportunities to like, hey, like you can't do that. And
Yep.
they're like,
And
oh, they always just shrug it off because, oh, First Amendment and I can say what we want. I'm like, well, yes, First Amendment means just that the government's not going to come down on you. It doesn't mean there's not going to be a consequence from the venue. And like I said, like one of the last people we banned, and I'm not going to say the name, but you and I both know what we're talking about.
mhm.
That was a memo that was passed down from the owner. Um,
Yep. And I think it's also remember like when you go into somebody's house, you gotta follow their rules.
mm-hmm,
And listen, I'm open mics are for spaces where like to try new stuff, see what works, what doesn't work. Like I've said jokes where I'm like, oh, I did not like how that turned out.
mm-hmm. Well,
And there's
I'm for that. I'm for people exploring and trying new things. But if we pull you aside and we're like, hey, maybe don't tell jokes about sexual assault,
Mhm.
or jokes about about rape, or about some of those topics, because those are, I mean, like no matter what, unless you're Anthony Jeselnik, Daniel Tosh, some of these guys who've been doing it for years and can craft like a very
Yeah,
good joke about
it takes
it.
like many years like to learn how to do the dark magic on how to work dark jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have a couple of theories on like how to make some of those jokes work. Like this is from personal experience. Like I'm still learning this lesson. My personal opinion is like if you're going to do like a joke on race, actually talk about race. That don't just use it as a cheap opportunity just to say like the N word or other racial slurs.
Mm-hmm.
And also talk from like personal experience, like
That's the
time
problem.
like
People
where you
are
actually
using
spend
from
like
personal
time with
experience.
like one of the jokes I'm working on is like when I worked a few jobs where I was the only white guy working.
Yeah, so you're talking from your experience. That's different. It's
Yes.
different from that versus just like, hey, don't you hate these N words? Like that sort of thing just can't fly. And again, we had given every single one of those people an opportunity, at least, through just little chats, pulling them aside, like, hey, like we know you're trying shit, but like, can you throttle it back? It was always the case. There's only one person that was something personal, and I don't want to get into that on this podcast, but let's just say when you stab the host in the back, you're not going to be allowed back in the
Yep,
place, and
it's
that was some politics sort of thing, so to speak. So yeah, but like I said, you said that you nailed it. Like when you go into someone's house, sometimes you have to follow by their rules, even if it's not something that you yourself would necessarily want to do.
and if you don't like the rules of their house, build your own house. Like I did this
Exactly.
past year. Like I did 3 open mics just by myself because I'm stuck in my hometown at the moment.
Mm.
And that's another experience I want to talk about, like doing solo open mics.
Oh, wow, solo open mics.
I've learned a
That's
couple things of doing that.
yeah, I could
Like,
imagine because weren't you doing one in Fort Ripley?
yes, by that area.
Yeah, like
That
it was like is this
lasted
like
3 months. And the first 2 times I did it, well, the second time I did it was like my biggest bomb ever. Like, nobody wanted to listen to comedy, and they were just, but it was sort of like a hell gig simulator where
oh yeah.
the
Yep.
thing I didn't feel like the benefits until like after I went to like a regular mic. I'm like, oh wow, the weight's been lifted.
I mean, if you can get through it,
Hmm.
it is like you said, it's a hell gig simulator. I've done some open mics that are just where well, maybe not to that extent. Obviously, I've never done a solo open mic. That sounds awful. I'm just being honest. Just doing
Yeah,
it by yourself completely. Or and not having this like the support of like the staff or the audience or anything like that. That's
yeah.
that's
Luckily, I
terrible.
had full support of the owner. Like, if I wanted to, she said I could do it every night.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool in a certain respect. I got to respect that.
Yep. But then I switched over. I now do it at our brewery, just to practice.
Which brewery?
It's one called Starry Eye Brewery. The
Okay, yeah, I've
owner's
heard of
very
that.
chill, but
Mm.
he still says like when I do my stuff, I have to keep it clean.
Mm.
So and also I got to give a special shout out to the Gray Rivers Arts Association. They also gave me some stage time.
It's cool. Like Little Falls has a cute little arts community. It's actually really nice. I know like that's like Shomer does a lot of stuff with them and Michael Shines. So that's
Yep.
that's very cool.
And I learned some stuff doing solo open mics. Like, if you want to get a better crowd, like, your odds are better at a brewery than a bar.
Yeah, well, because with the brewery, they're not drinking hard liquor, and that's really
Right.
that's the difference. It takes a lot for someone to get like shit canned at a brewery. And it's also going to be expensive. At a bar, it's like, oh, I got $3 shots of this, and especially a lot of bars, they're pouring heavy, and these people have been drinking for a while, and especially if they're not expecting comedy.
Hmm.
Ugh. I've done a few hell gigs. I've performed in some little towns that like they're like, oh, there's comedy tonight.
Hmm.
You show up, you're ready to go. There's a
The thing I
PA.
and also the thing I did before I started performing was like I'd ask people around the bar, it's like, "Hey, I'm going to do a comedy show. Do you want to listen to it?" So that way I don't just surprise them with comedy.
Just oh, by the way, there's comedy in 5 minutes. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm going to do comedy in minutes. Hope you enjoy it. And also I'm going to joke about Trump.
Oh God, yeah, especially in some of the places you were doing that at. Oof.
Yeah. But also I did learn another valuable comedy lesson, and I learned it from all people from my mother last year. It was a very powerful comedy lesson.
What's that?
Well, I'll just explain. Like, my parents are very sensitive. Like, if you say like one offensive thing, they just shut it down.
Mhm.
But then I was watching like a movie with my mom, and I was watching the movie The Outer Towns with Steve Martin,
Wow.
and
Okay,
we
yeah, that's an
I was
old
able to
that's a
watch that
that's a
entire movie with
reference.
my mom, even though that movie covered jokes about everything from like the craziness of New York. They had crazy sex jokes and everything.
Mm.
But the thing that made it work was like the point of view was from the outsiders viewing all this craziness. And it taught me like you can get a crowd to joke anything with a crowd, but the first thing you gotta do is you gotta get them to accept you as one of their own.
You gotta get the crowd behind you. Yep, I
Because
get that.
everyone feels safe like talking about everything with their buddies.
True. I get that. Yep. That if you can make them like it's about likability. It's about getting them to like that's why as like a host, the big thing is just to try to be as affable as you can. Like that's a huge skill is being able like to get to be the first one on to go up to a cold audience and get them behind you. If you can do that, you're doing something great. Like that's it's the hardest thing in comedy. Like I've gotten up to the point now where I feature and sometimes headline, and it's so much easier. It's so much easier to feature. I mean, like, granted, you have to have better jokes. They expect you to have a good solid half hour and everything. And that's where I'm feeling like I'm at right now. I could do a good, I feel like I have a solid half hour, but some of these, like, some of these places, like, yeah, when you had to do it, like when you had to go up to a cold audience, especially on like a Friday night, it's an
Mhm.
early night, maybe an early show, like a 7 o'clock on a Friday. They haven't had a chance to like really eat. Maybe they're still eating while you're the first one on stage. And if you can get them behind you, you're doing something right. But also, I tell this to hosts all the time, especially because like in my room, as I'm also the curator of the Beaver Island Comedy series. Like some of these, I put up, I give some people chances to host just so they have an idea, and they go, "Oh, that was rough. I didn't kill," because they're used to being on maybe a showcase or an open mic where they do well with their material, and I go, "Yeah, because you had to go first."
Yep.
And I go, you did exactly what you need to do. Did you get them laughing? And they do, but they're just not getting like the big laughs like they're used
Mhm.
to. But I'm
And
like, you
most
got them
importantly,
laughing.
you didn't make anyone walk out.
You didn't make, yeah, you do that. You didn't, they don't walk out. It's literally called warm up for a reason. You're
Mhm.
warming them up for the other comedians. And that's good. So as long as they're not, and I go, and if they're paying attention to you, you're doing something right. I tell comics all the time to not be afraid of silence.
Mhm.
Silence is okay because silence means they're still paying attention to you. If they're talking to their friends, if they're sitting on their phone or doing something else, that's when you've lost them.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Okay.
also hosting is like one of the most important things you can learn as a comic because it's you can't not only can you use your hosting skills as for like a comedy showcase, you can also take it to other things like hosting a book club, hosting like a public event, and
If you
also
that's a different 15 when you're doing a book club. It's like today we're talking about A Catcher in the Rye. Like it's a little different, but I get you. It's about, yeah, it's about, again, it's a good getting that, being able to speak in front of people. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And also to go up cold, regardless of whether it's comedy or whatever else. You're right, 100%.
and also it's important to learn like what works well in a hosting set, feature set, and a headliner set. And some jokes you can say as a headliner, but not as a host.
100%.
Yep. I like to
Oh,
use like the analogy like the layers of the brain, like the reptilian, the animal, and the more advanced ones. I say like there's host level jokes with like jokes you say from your family, and there's feature jokes with jokes you say in front of your friends, and then there's the headliner jokes is what you say in front of your therapist.
okay. That's actually, I like that. I like that analogy. That's a good one. I always say, like, the host jokes, a host set should always be about like a PG-13 movie in the 80s. And what I mean by that is it's maybe a few adult situations and you get like two or three swear words.
Mhm.
That's it. And because you don't want to, partially because you don't want to ruin the room. Like if they're not, you want to give like the feature and more so the headliner the chance, if they want to go really dirty or they want to
Mhm.
get into some really heavy topics, that's their job. Your job is the host. That's when you need to have punchy, quick jokes, being able to move. Like tonight, I'm hosting my own room tonight because of a request from our headliner, James Stanley. And I'm doing a very different set than I did last night when I was featuring in
Mhm.
Floodwood, Minnesota, because, my career's on fire. And it's still a fun little room, and had a blast. I was with John DeBoer,
Mhm.
and but yeah, like those are two like very, like they're differing situations. So like, yeah, when I told them, like, these kids, they'll come up to me after, like, oh, I just feel like I did so badly. I'm like, no, you did exactly what you needed to do.
Mhm. Yep. And I also want to go back to the topic of like different clubs having different standards, which I think is important to know because I see so many like newer comics coming to the scene. They try to act out what they see on television, Netflix, and to the scene they're not aware of the business side of comedy yet.
Yeah, like when I first started for work doing shows for Funny Business, they wanted, as a host, they wanted you to do a PG-13 set. They
Hmm.
did not want you to go dirty at all. Some venues, it's crazy. I've also done venues too where when I was hosting or middling or whatever, they want you to go dirty. They want you to go hard. They want you to go gross. They want that. They'll even put like, we want, like,
Hmm.
we got, or if you do a private, like you're doing a private party, a corporate, for like I did one for firefighters, and they immediately they're like, yes, we're not, we're not so soft. We're gonna, we want to do, we want it to be a little more edgy, and then you can let it fly. You can do what you want. But yeah, a lot of times make sure you're talking with the venue owner or the producer and see what they're looking for.
Mhm. And also, I like to use the analogy like the three clubs in Minneapolis that I think this represent like the three types of shows you can do. Like you got Sisyphus, which is like the professional, more well, especially these days, the more I say like PC rooms, and then you got Acme, which is like the professional, polished, and you got Terminal, which is like the open road.
You can say whatever the fuck you want there.
Yep, like one
Yep.
club is the house where you take off your shoes, and the other one is where you can go to smoke crack.
Yeah. I mean, that's their purview. That's what they want to do. Like if you're doing a show at Terminal, they don't they they're it's a dive bar in Northeast Minneapolis. They're a little bit more like, yeah, Sisyphus had, it's a more of a hip sort of like
Mhm.
sort of thing, or Acme especially, like that's a professional club. So these are very different. Yeah, you're right, they're very different spots.
And
And
they
it's
each
a
serve their own function. Like I think as much as people shit on Terminal, like I think it is like an important club to have in the ecosystem because it gives like the people who've been kicked out of comedy a place to breathe and say their shit, and maybe they can practice stuff out and they have self-awareness. They can see like, oh well, this joke didn't quite work out, or if not, it's at least it's a place where they can go like to vent out.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I remember Terminal when it was ran by Earl Elliott.
Hmm.
I remember Terminal when it was Drew Hayer. I remember it when it was Corey. Like, yeah, it's had different phases, but that's always kind of been the point of it. It's like a kind of do what you want, go up, try stuff room, and that's fine. I mean, is it also going to be a room where a good chunk of the people are not paying attention to what you're doing on stage?
Yep.
Probably. Uh, Although, I mean, to this day, I still tell people, I'm like, I'd still rather do Terminal than ever do Galactic Pizza ever again.
Hmm.
That place, that was a rough spot.
Hmm.
Like Galactic Pizza, for those of you who are not familiar, it was a place where it was the late night mic on a Thursday,
Very late.
and it was basically sign up, get up. Everyone who got on there who signed up got to do a set, but no one was paying attention to you. Like it was all comics in the back talking or on their phone or writing their own sets down, and then it was people who were there that were not there for comedy, that they just really liked the pizza or the late night specials there. Occasionally though, I did get to do that room once where some kid, it was his first time ever doing stand up, and he brought like 25 people with him. 25, and in that room was
Yeah.
full, and I got to go on after him, so they couldn't
And
just
all his
leave.
friends left that just left.
No,
Oh, they
they're still
stayed?
paying their tabs, and like that was the only time I ever got like laughs at really got really good laughs was at that one night, and then they left after my set, and a bunch of people were pissed that Lyndon had put me up early, but he's like, you Mike was another one of those really cool guys
Mhm.
back in the day. He'd always let me go up a little early because he knew I had to drive an hour and a half back home.
Mhm.
I miss that
Yep.
guy.
Yeah, speaking of pizza places, I also want to transition and talk about your podcast, the Alpha Service Podcast.
Yep.
'Cause I think like,
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for about 6 years. It's a podcast where we talk about different jobs and the stories there within. It's everything from customer service, restaurant jobs to we do just do everything now. Any jobs that people have, we'll sit and listen to your stories about it. And that's really where it started, is just an idea of, hey, let's like joke around about jobs, because every person who's worked any sort of customer service, whether it's retail, whether it's
mhm,
restaurant, or even just like any other job, everyone has a good story about their job.
right.
And for us, and right now the newest iteration is just myself and Joe Cocazello. We listen to people talk about everything, and it's some episodes are better than others. Some people have different. Every episode's like a snowflake. It's very different every time.
And
And it's
there's
it, yeah.
who had
And then
like
there's
the
times
most
where,
surprising, interesting job that made you go like, wow, that's I didn't expect you to be doing that.
I mean, the craziest one I'll still say is Rick Logan. When we found he sat there and talked about being a professional Ronald McDonald for 30 years of his life.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Because one time
Yeah, he
when
was.
I started doing comedy, I was still working McDonald's in Little Falls, in my hometown. And there was one day where Rick Logan came in as Ronald McDonald.
Oh, crazy! So you got to see him when he was doing like when he was the regional Ronald McDonald from Minnesota.
Yep. And that was
That's
right after when I
crazy.
first started to comedy. So I'm like, hey, I know you. I saw you at Joke Joint.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it was crazy because he told us about like how like they had to do like initiation processes for new Ronald McDonald's, which that was fun. They would have like they would get a hotel convention center and they would just be there'd be 50 Ronald McDonald's all in their all dressed as Ronald McDonald, and then there would be the new Ronalds, and they would do like a they would inspect it like it was an army uniform. The red on your nose isn't the right circumference because Ronald had a very specific red on his nose, had a very specific like the laces had to look a specific way, and it was crazy. And then hearing stories about like they would just get they after they would initiate these guys, they go get like hammed and just sitting there and drink and party. And I'm just thinking that's so funny. And then we're like, did you ever just a bunch of you just ever just roll up to a like a McDonald's as Ronald McDonald, like 50 Ronald McDonald's just filling a McDonald's up? Like some kid behind the counter, like 50 of my bosses are here. Like that's and then we also found out that in Japan it's not Ronald McDonald, it's Donald McDonald
Hmm.
because they can't pronounce R's.
Oh,
So yeah, that's so like that's one of the craziest ones. I mean, but we've had everything from like people who've worked. We had a guy who worked for he worked for Hustler. He worked under I can't think of his name. It's gonna bother me. But he worked for Hustler magazine.
was as an editor or was
No, he was the personal assistant to, and now I'm so tired. I am so sorry. Just you can edit this part out or not. I don't care.
yeah, this so far this episode doesn't need edited anyway so far.
Oh, Larry Flint. He was Larry Flint's personal assistant,
Okay.
and like telling the stories about like, but it was always like just go get coffee and go do these things, and then he would. Meanwhile, there's like just naked women hanging out, and he still has some of the set stuff from like the videos they used to do. Like he has like some of the props in his house to this day.
Oh.
That was fun. I mean, but like it's everything. Like some of the best stories though are just like guys who worked at Blockbuster
Mhm.
and just telling us stories about that. Like sometimes it doesn't have to be the craziest like
Right.
job. Sometimes it's like the craziest thing that happened to them while they're working. We
Yep,
had
it's
Mo
sort of like the movie
Alexander.
Clerks.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, love me some Kevin Smith.
Mhm.
Um, kind of, yeah. Like stuff like that, yeah. Or Mallrats if you want to get into it too. As there's more retail based things and Minnesota related, at Eden
Yep.
Prairie there. So yeah, that's kind of the angle we went with it, and we've been doing it now, and we're at like just trying to figure out the amount of episodes we have, and that doesn't even include the lost episodes ones because we had audio issues. We had
Mhm.
just because that was when we moved to doing Zoom, it was really tough because sometimes like you'll go through a downloading process and then there's like an error and then you've lost like 2 hours, and like that's happened to a few of us. Like we have like I think we have like 10 episodes that just never aired because it was just there was a problem with editing or trying to get it to like so we could just edit it, like trying to get it like download it to your computer, process something weird happen, and then we just lost it to the ether, and that really sucks.
Yeah, and
um
has there been a big audience for it? Like I know that's super label, like everyone has like those weird jobs they had to work.
we do all right. I'm not saying we're doing great. I'm not saying we're doing poorly. We're kind of in the middle. We're in a point where we just do it because we love it.
Yeah,
We're not losing money doing it anymore, but we're not really making money doing it, if that makes sense.
mhm.
And I know a lot of people like you should be monetized by now. And it's like, yeah, but if we were monetized, then like again, house rules. Oh, you can't say this, you can't say this, you can't say
Mhm.
this. And we mock, corporations. We make fun of McDonald's. We make fun of the different chains and restaurants and commercials and retail items and food stuff. We do all the time. And our main goal is to get a cease and desist. Like we want to get a cease and desist from like Jimmy John's. Like, can you not just purchase anymore? Like stuff like that.
Mhm.
So
Get some notoriety.
yeah, and we're gonna put it on a shirt.
All right. And then there's one last thing I want to talk about. Like, I also want to hear about your stories as a rodeo for Kids Bop.
A roadie for kids, but there was one time I did it once, but yes, I will.
All
I
right.
don't even tell this joke anymore. That's so funny that you, because it's a true story.
Yep.
So I was a roadie for Kids Bop once here in St. Cloud, Minnesota, at the St. Cloud Convention Center. I had a friend who was an event coordinator for Leighton Broadcasting, and they brought in Kids Bop to town. The radio station was sponsoring it, and I helped him with other events. I was actually his manager for his beer tour, the St. Cloud Craft Beer Tour. I managed for 2 years. I also managed his cider fest. So, like, if he needed help, he would have me come, and I was supposed to help like on some more of the logistical side. But then he's like, "Hey, I just really need help set up," and I'm like, "Okay," and I did that sort of stuff for him anyway. I walk in off the street, and before, like, I go, "Hey," and before I can say, "Can I find is Christian here?" That was the guy I worked with. They're like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna put you to work. Hey, oh yeah, yeah, you need to." And they literally had me setting up like electronics that I had no idea how to do. I think they thought I was somebody else. And in the story, and it's kind of true, they did actually have me starting to set up pyrotechnics,
Ooh, for
like the tubes that shoot them up. I'm like, I literally had to like, I will kill. Someone's gonna get killed. And then like finally the foreman goes, "Well, you're trying to get someone killed," like they were saying to someone else to me, and I'm like, "Yeah, I was trying to tell them that." Like, and then they had me put up curtains, and I found out like I mean to be fair, it made sense to me. Like, oh yeah, curtains. Like, and then I go, but then they had these very specific curtains that blocked the side view. Like you would have to be sitting at the very edge, like really bad obstructed seats to look back. And I'm like, why do you have the curtains here? And it goes, oh well, we used to sell a lot of tickets to single men. And it took me a minute. I'm like,
ooh, oh,
oh, yeah. Like they would sit and so they could watch them do the outfit changes.
ooh.
But it was crazy. So like I was doing all this stuff, and then they had me setting up the craft service table, which is cool. Like it's easy. Like it was a lot of like again, it's all the stuff you think you'd find. Like and there's goldfish crackers and Oreos and Capri Sun packets and things. And then out of like the same basket or not basket, it was like a tote that had all the kids stuff in it. The road manager pulled out a handle of Patron. Yeah, and he just pulls it out and just straight takes a shot. And I go, should you be drinking around the kids? And like literally one of the kids goes, he does it all the time. Like legitimately, that is not a joke. That happened. And then he's taking shots and then taking a Capri Sun and like chasing it with a children's juice box. And
I
that's when
think
I found out that he was actually a tour manager for like Motley Crue and a bunch of like 80s hair metal bands back when like that mattered in like the 80s and 90s.
yeah, but so now he's like, now I'm doing this.
Yeah, and that and he was like he just never gave up the party from the sound of things.
Yeah.
So
And what was the kids about? Kind of was this a bunch of kids singing like recent songs?
yeah, that's exact. I didn't say for the concert,
Yeah.
but
Why would you?
they didn't want to put me in one of those edge seats. Um, actually, they did offer me free tickets, and I'm like, I'm good. I don't have
Yep.
kids, so this would just be lost on me. But yeah, it was like, yeah, they're doing like the kid friendly covers of pop music as they always did. So,
Hmm. I remember that era of time when, especially like the era of like cover songs where you thought you were buying like the real song on a collection CD. I'm like, oh, this is just a crappy cover.
oh yeah, it was. And what's crazy is they're still doing it. We just don't know.
Hmm.
They still have Kids Bop. They did one for there's a Kids Bop version of Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar.
Is there a Kids Bop
It's
version of WAP?
yes,
Really?
it was it's like Wet Something Puppy. Yeah. And then there's another one, the Not Like Us is We Ride the Bus. We ride the bus. We ride the bus. And like and completely changing all of the lyrics, but it's still like dun, 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 like it's still like the same beat. And it's always yeah, they did a lot of that stuff. I remember it
Was
was
one of the
it,
lyrics they say like Drake certified cinephile?
no, they don't even. I don't even think they do that. Like, like I don't remember. I just had heard a little bit of it, and I'm like, is this real? And someone's like, yes, this is real. I'm like, that's crazy.
Wow. Oh, it's amazing how our lives go. Like one moment you're being a roadie for a Kids Bop, and then next thing you're you're doing comedy in St. Cloud.
It's actually kind of when I was restarting comedy in St. Cloud in 2016 when they just started the Keller mic actually.
Hmm.
And I never thought to tell the joke until like 2018, 2019 when I started doing that bit. But it doesn't resonate with people as much anymore because Kids Pop isn't such a touchstone as it was.
Yeah. I want to say personally, thank you for keeping the color bar open. It's been a very beneficial for me in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing something new for this podcast where I'm the last thing I'm gonna do is ask two questions of every comedian. There's these same two questions.
Okay.
The first question I want to ask is, can I see your joke book?
Ooh, I don't have it right next to me.
All
It's
right.
in my. I keep my joke book. I have. Well, I have one. I have a note. I use the notes app on my phone, and then I transfer it to a joke book. My joke book is in my car right now.
Okay. Hope no one steals it.
No, it's just. Oh yeah, they just be like, what is this chicken scratch meat? What? Because I take a lot of. I do a lot of paraphrasing, especially, and then I'll because I know what it is, but I'm just trying to do shorthand. So
Yeah, hopefully none of your jokes have the nuclear codes on them.
a couple, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. And my second question I'm going to ask every comedian after this question is like, who's your favorite movie character?
Ooh, that's a tough one, man, because you got to pick up what genre, what thing. I would actually, back to Kevin Smith, I'd actually say Dante from Clerks.
Yeah, he's a very relatable character.
Mm. And
Yeah.
I always enjoyed him, especially the original film. The other ones are good too, but I liked that, and I identified with him a lot, unfortunately,
Oh,
because there's some parts where
especially
you're not supposed to identify him with him, but yeah,
yeah, he's a very relatable character, especially when you're in your 20s and everyone's just saying like you're under pressure like have your life on a certain track and you take this job, you think it's gonna be like for a little bit, but then you just
yeah,
keep
you're
doing
just
the
there.
same thing over and over.
Yeah, my
I do
second
like
answer. Oh, sorry.
I like Dante. He sort of represents like the intellectual who's sort of stuck at a certain station in life.
Yeah, my second answer would be Godzilla.
All right.
I still love me a Godzilla movie to this day. I watched all the Japanese ones.
Hmm.
Minus one was amazing. The Shin Godzilla from a few years ago is also really good. But I even like the bad rubber suit ones. I don't know, just one of those characters that always stuck with me.
All right. I think I'll also take this time to answer that question for myself. Like talk about like my favorite movie character.
Who's that?
It's Mar from Sin City.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yep, I like him because he's my favorite character because he's someone. Well, he's strong, but he's also sees himself as a flawed character, and he tries to point himself in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a
That's good.
self-described loser, but he's also super strong,
I guess we kind of have similar answers.
and I'm also trying to get my hair cut the same way he does.
Oh, fair. I got it. Doing that, doing the wave. Got you.
Yeah, because I'm tired of people still saying I look like Dahmer.
I think it's going to take a while for you to get to that point,
Yeah, but
or you're gonna have to get some different glasses.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you for this time. This has been the Kelly Berger podcast. We've had Matt Dooyema. You can catch him hosting Color Bar every Wednesday and St. Cloud. And you can also, where can they listen to your podcast?
Anywhere that you like, we're on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, pretty much anywhere you download your podcast, you can find Awful Service.
All right. This has been the Kelly Berger podcast. We are done with episode 24. We got as many podcasts as hours in the day. And that concludes it.